May 28th, 1999. Does that day mean anything to you? It does to me. That is the opening day of Islands of Adventure, my absolute favorite park in the whole wide world. And in today's video, I am taking you guys on a little 25-year tour of IOA, sharing with you guys some of the changes this park has had over its 25-year history. I want to go over some things that used to exist, some things that didn't exist but are here now, and just share my love for the best theme park in the whole wide world. Join me for another episode of Vincent Vision. Watcha! Islands of Adventure, happy birthday, 25 years, woo! In this video, I'm going to take you guys through each of the themed lands here at IOA, the park that revolutionized the theme park industry. Admittedly, a lot of stuff here at Islands of Adventure has stayed the same. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this park has also had a lot of really amazing, noteworthy additions as well. And I'm going to try to cover as many of them as I can, even some of the smaller things that weren't here for a very long time but are worth talking about. Our adventure starts here at the port of entry, the entrance to the park. And honestly, there's not really too much that has changed. I think port of entry for a lot of theme park fans is Islands of Adventure, right? It's the entrance, it's the lighthouse, it's the Ocean Trader Market music. This vibe has been like this since 1999, but there have been some changes that honestly we've kind of yet to see in the parks. Last year, Universal Orlando completely changed all of the logos for the park. So that classic Islands of Adventure logo has now switched over to a newer, more modern version online and in advertisements now. Luckily for us, here in the park, it's still the classic IOA logo. And it makes me wonder if they're ever really gonna change it. They better not touch that big, beautiful medallion over there, okay? It's perfect, don't change it, no notes. Since it is the 25th anniversary of Islands of Adventure this year, there is some new merchandise going on that actually even features references to the old original logo of Islands of Adventure before the one that we now have. I think the merch is cool, I think the pin is fun. Me though, I'm gonna keep getting my retro vintage shirts online because this is the cool Islands of Adventure anniversary merch in my opinion. Something that used to happen a lot more in the port of entry land, it doesn't really happen now, is there used to be tons and tons of characters. Just even recently, they used to have all these original characters in the land based off like pirates and travelers and things like that. But I remember even way before that, is that certain characters at Islands of Adventure had a lot more like agency and they can go around port of entry and do whatever they want. Like, I'm gonna try to find a video of this, but I vividly remember seeing Spider-Man in the Islands of Adventure gift shop, just like standing there. And I remember characters going into like guest services and things like that. I remember too like seeing Spider-Man on the bridge at port of entry. My 10-year-old brain could have just been imagining that, but I know I've seen it. Please leave a comment down below if you know exactly what I'm talking about. Spider-Man used to be able to go wherever he wanted because he's Spider-Man, right? I would say if there was one big change that port of entry has had in the past 25 years, is that there actually used to be an attraction at the entrance of the park called the Island Skipper Tours. This was a boat that you would be able to take from the port of entry all the way over to Jurassic Park, and they were really well themed. You had a really unique views of the park where you're going through the lagoon. It didn't last very long though. If I recall, it only went until about like maybe 2001, 2002. The park, Islands of Adventure, is big, but it's not so big that it warrants having a boat to take you from the opposite sides of the park. So I think because of that, it didn't really continue on, but there are still remnants of the Island Skipper Tours here at the park. There's the queue, there's the old marquee entrance, you can see the dock that you used to be able to get on. The Jurassic Park dock doesn't exist anymore. That's all the Velocicoaster stuff, which we'll probably talk about a little later in this video, but I would say as far as like port of entry goes, that's like the biggest notable change that this side of the park has had, which is totally fine because port of entry is perfect the way it is. Do not change port of entry. Don't ever, you hear this music, hear this? Don't change that. So this video was a lot of fun to make because I went on YouTube and tried to find as many of like the home videos of Islands of Adventure as I could. One of the coolest videos I found was of the park's opening day in 1999, where like every single celebrity was here. Whoever filmed this basically like walked right behind Steven Spielberg, got to like get super close to him. Eddie Murphy was there, Patrick Swayze was there. Literally Stan Lee is in front of the Spider-Man ride, taking pictures and signing comic books. Like, I think if I was there on the opening day of Islands of Adventure and all these people were around me, my head would have exploded. Let's hope something like this happens for Epic Universe. When you're at Port of Entry, you either go left towards Marvel Superhero Island or right towards Seuss Landing. We're going right at Seuss Landing here, and this is a really, really wonderful area of the park that's had some changes and even some new rides added. over the 25 years of Iowa history. Some of the biggest changes I think of when I think of Seuss Landing are the changes to the very, very popular Grinchmas seasonal event. Now, when you came here to the park in the early 2000s, Grinchmas was a completely different experience. Characters used to roam Seuss Landing more freely. Even the Grinch would wander around the park in his little villager outfit that he would wear in the movie. They also used to do the Mount Crumpet snow plummet down over here as well. They used to have like a snow play area during Grinchmas, and you would be able to get on like a little sleigh and go down Ice Mountain. That was all here in this section of the park. And now it kind of just sits here unused. They used this for some shows a couple of years back, but now a lot of the Seuss shows and activities happen down the main walkway of the park. So this back area here just kind of sits abandoned. In my head, this is like the perfect spot for like a little tiny ride. They could like add one more small ride back here, but it's a good place to rest and get out of the crowds. The biggest addition that Seuss Landing has probably seen was the addition of the High in the Sky Seuss Trolley train ride. Many, many years ago, when this park first opened up, this ride that you see going above Seuss Landing was going to be something completely different. This was going to be Sylvester McMonkey McBean's Unusual Driving Machines. And this would be a ride similar to the Sky Trolley, where you'd get a little car right above Seuss Landing. But this was supposed to be individually operated vehicles that riders could bump into each other on the ride track up above. Yeah, didn't think it was going to be a good idea either. So it sat closed for a long time. If you ever came to the park in the early years, you might have seen the track going by with a bunch of like fake characters up above, until eventually the High in the Sky Seuss Trolley train ride opened. And now we can get a scenic tour of Seuss Landing and Islands of Adventure, and you don't have to worry about some kid bumping you at like 15 miles an hour up on a track. That's scary. Oh, and then one more thing about this area, something that I very much remember. Do you guys remember the Honk Honkers cotton candy? This was something that existed for like a little while. I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago, but they had a shop right here at the entrance of Seuss Landing by the Lost Continent, and this was a cotton candy shop, but they had the biggest cotton candy I had ever seen in my entire life. They would make this gigantic, like bigger than your head, and it was super popular, and it took a long time to make as well. So like I also remember the cotton candy shop having like a 30-minute wait all the time because people wanted to get these giant, big, Instagrammable. This was like right at the start of like the big Instagram food craze. Big old cotton candy. That's a fun memory. Honk Honkers is closed right now. They use this space as like the Grinch meet and greet during the Grinchmas time of year here at Universal, but man, I miss those gigantic, silly Dr. Seuss cotton candies. So here in the Lost Continent, we have probably seen the most amount of changes that this park has had in the 25 years of existence. One of the biggest changes is this temple right behind me. This is the former Temple of Poseidon. And this is where, for up until 2023, we had Poseidon's Fury Escape from the Lost City. This was an opening day attraction here at Islands of Adventure that would take you through Poseidon's Temple. It was a walk-through show experience with special effects and fire and water. We went to see it on the last day of its operation. It's a really, really unique attraction. And now, its temple lies here in the ruins. It's pretty hard to mention Islands of Adventure without talking about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Hogsmeade, an incredibly impressive land, truly like the theme park land that changed all the theme park lands in my opinion. This very famously took over half of the Lost Continent area, a section of the park called Merlinwood, where we used to have things like the Enchanted Oak Tavern. This was a restaurant that looked like a big tree that was later referenced in the Dueling Dragons haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights. And of course, Dueling Dragons, the classic red and blue roller coaster, the shirt I am wearing. This was an opening day attraction. This was a big, epic roller coaster that would go at the same time. They passed through each other's at the same time. They stopped dueling sometime before Islands of Adventure converted Lost Continent into the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and then the ride became Dragon Challenge, where instead of two dragons going up against each other, you were participating in the Tri-Wizard Cup, and you were riding on a dragon trying to get the egg or something like that. There was another ride in Lost Continent that was added a little bit later to the park, but is now still here with Harry Potter. Flight of the Hippogriff used to be a roller coaster called Flight of the Unicorn. It was actually the exact same track. They just changed the theming from unicorns to hippogriffs. And there are some other things here in the Lost Continent that have gone away that maybe might be like nostalgic to you, because it's definitely nostalgic to me. Do you guys remember right over here by the bathrooms of the Lost Continent, they had the old coin maker. They had this like whole shop where you could pick out the coins that you wanted, and there was this guy, and he did this like whole presentation. In order to press the coin, they would have this like big steel thing come down and always make this really loud like ka-dunk noise. It was a very memorable thing here in this area of the park, here in Sinbad Village. It's nothing now. Now it's just a seating area in this section of the park, but a really, really unique thing here in the park that I think stands out in a lot of people's memories. Right by the former coin shop was actually another show called The Eighth Voyage of Sinbad. This was a stunt show here in the park, a big, epic spectacular with stunt performers catching on fire and falling into pits and big explosions and fight choreography. This is a really, really fun show. It lasted here for a very long time. It closed sometime in 2017 to make way for Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. More specifically, the queue for Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. When they opened Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure in 2019, the line was so long it stretched to 10 hours, and it went all throughout the park, including through the former Eighth Voyage of Sinbad stunt theater. They used that space for a little while, and I think every so often, if it's like really, really busy, they'll still use that for early park admission. But now, for the most part, the Sinbad Theater just kind of sits there. Really big unused area of the park. Curious to see if that changes. I'm sure it will in the future, but for now, it's kind of just sitting there. If you want an old relic of Islands of Adventure history, you can walk all the way back over there and see everything just left behind. There's been a bunch of obscure acts throughout Islands of Adventure's history, little street performers, things like that. But there's one here in the Lost Continent that caught my eye, and I don't really know that much about it. I never got to see it in person, but apparently they used to have a group of like a time-traveling band that would go through the Lost Continent section of the park on this like big vehicle, and they would like ride through playing music, and I don't know how long it existed. I've only ever seen one video of these guys. If anyone else knows about this, please let me know, because this is definitely one of the weirder things in Islands of Adventure's 25 years, in my opinion. Now, we are in the jungles of Jurassic Park, where this section of the park has actually gotten a lot of changes over the years. The biggest, most obvious, is the Jurassic World Velocicoaster, the coolest roller coaster anywhere. And the space that they used to build the roller coaster took over a couple different places of the park. There used to be an attraction here when this place first opened up called the Triceratops Encounter. This was a themed walkthrough where you would go through the facilities of Jurassic Park. You'd see like where they keep the cages, where they keep the dinosaur food, and at the end, they had this big giant Triceratops animatronic that you could get close to and pet. It was a super immersive experience that made you really feel like you were in Jurassic Park. That sat abandoned for a couple years until they eventually started building the Velocicoaster, where the first half of the ride now takes that place. Where you now enter the Velocicoaster used to be a really cool area of the park. There weren't any rides or experiences there, but it was very pretty, it was very scenic. It really felt like you were in Jurassic Park. This is also where the other dock for the Island Skipper Tours used to be. Now we've got the Velocicoaster. It is super cool, it is super awesome, a worthy addition to Islands of Adventure, that is for sure. Something else that took over the Jurassic Park area of the park was actually Skull Island, Reign of Kong. Before Skull Island came to be, this was a little bit more of Jurassic Park, and it's actually cool. They actually used to have 2 Jurassic Park archways that you would walk into from either side of the land, so you still got that Jurassic Park entrance no matter where you came from. And I think this plot of land for Skull Island kind of sat empty for a long time. Originally, in the plans for Islands of Adventure, this was going to be a Jeep adventure. It was going to be a big dark ride where you were going through like the jungle, you'd encounter the T-Rex. This, I think, was originally going to be in the plot of land where Skull Island Reign of Kong is going to be. Now, we have the King Kong ride. There's also some entertainment that used to exist here in Jurassic Park that doesn't exist anymore. Unfortunately, there's no more baby Triceratops. They used to walk around with a baby Triceratops in the park. It was super cool. And the old Raptor Encounter is where the Triceratops Encounter used to be. Now we have a permanent Raptor Encounter with a big, beautiful Velociraptor. Big Blue comes out and sees people every day. Very, very cool. Now Jurassic Park has kind of turned into like a Jurassic Park / Jurassic World land, and who knows what the future of this area is going to be. Maybe one day they'll turn the River Adventure into the Jurassic World ride from California and turn all of this into Jurassic World, but until then, we've got a little bit of Jurassic Park and a little bit of Jurassic World. For 25 years, Toon Lagoon has been the place for the water rides here at Islands of Adventure, and I'm happy to say that 25 years later, they are still just as wet. Dudley Do Ride's Ripsaw Falls and Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat barges haven't really had many changes. In fact, this whole land really hasn't had anything super big go away or switch out or anything like that. A long time ago, there used to be a show in the land. I remember there being like this cart where the characters would come out and they'd come out and dance in the street, kind of like a Main Street type trolley situation. I also remember too, like, the old characters in the park, like Popeye and Betty Boop, were costume characters. They weren't face characters. So they had like the big heads and they were kind of a little creepier than they are now. Right behind me is actually a pretty interesting talking point. This is the Toon Lagoon Amphitheater, and this actually used to have a lot of different shows in the 25 years of Islands of Adventure. When the park first opened up, this was home to the Pandemonium Cartoon Circus show. They had this whole show featuring all the different characters from Toon Lagoon, like Dudley Do-Ride and Dick Dastardly and Boris and Natasha, Rocky and Bullwinkle, all those guys. That went on for a little bit. Eventually it closed, then they turned this into like Matt Hoffman's Agro Circus. This was like a BMX show here in Toon Lagoon, which is so random. Whenever they did Halloween Horror Nights here at Islands of Adventure, this is where they did the Bill and Ted show. And now, it kind of just sits here. I think they have like cheerleading events that happen in the park every so often, and they'll use this stage for that. But apart from that, it just kind of sits here throughout the year, which is a shame because this is a pretty big plot of land, and I think if you wanted to either expand Marvel Superhero Island or add something into Toon Lagoon or change out all of Toon Lagoon and use this as more space for expansion, I think you totally could. Hopefully that answers any question you might have about this theater you've seen walking through the park. Watch out. Hey, you shouldn't be out here. With Doc Ock on the loose, this could be the most dangerous night of my life, and yours. Be careful. Nice shades. I'm just kidding, I'm not swinging away. I gotta tell you about all the stuff that's changed here in Marvel Superhero Island. Oh my gosh, there's Spider-Man over there.
What, where?
Oh, sorry. Must have confused you for another one, yeah. What the, I was just doing his little ride thing and now he was, oh my, so embarrassing. You guys may or may not know, I've made a video about it. It's the wonderful Marvel contract. Basically, the long story short is, all of this Marvel Superhero Island was built in 1999 with the park before Disney bought Marvel. So because of that, Universal gets to keep all of the Marvel land, and any characters that show up in this area of the park cannot be used at Walt Disney World. But the flip side to that is, they can't really like have any major additions to this area of the park. Like, they can't really build any new rides or anything like that, but they can revamp things that they already have, which they have done a couple of times. One of them was the Incredible Hulk coaster right here at the entrance of the park. This ride got a whole facelift in 2015, 2016, and it's basically the Hulk 2.0 with brand new track, music on the roller coaster, a brand new queue. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man got a facelift in 2012 where they changed the footage of the ride to 4K footage, and the superheroes here in Marvel Superhero Island got a little bit of a revamp as well. I don't know if you remember the old costumes that they used to wear here in the land, but they were kind of cheesy. But now they have a slightly more modern look, a little bit more 2000s superhero, and they look really great. Something I do miss that I haven't seen for a long time, and I don't know if it'll ever come back or not, is the Marvel Cavalcade. They used to have the characters, when they would come out to meet people in the park, they would all show up and roll up down the street on like ATVs and little four-wheelers, and they made a whole scene. It's like a 5-second long parade. Those are some of the biggest changes here in the Marvel land. I think personally, I love this section of the park. I think it's great. I think the comic vibe works really well here. And it's funny because things that seem kind of like outdated always come back around in Universal's favor. You know what's so funny? This land is littered with X-Men characters, and you know what's like a super popular show on Disney Plus right now? X-Men 97. And it's all based off the style of these characters here. So guess what? Universal always wins in the end. All right? Always comes back around to Universal like a globe. I sound like a supervillain. Anyway, let's get out of here. You know, now that I think about it, Islands of Adventure really has had a ton of wonderful changes throughout the years. And the one thing that I can say for sure is that everything that this park has gone through has made it a better experience every turn. Seriously, I truly do believe Islands of Adventure is one of the best parks in the world, if not the absolute best. For the amazing theming, the immersive lands, the really, really good rides. This is a place that I came to as a kid growing up. It was one of my first big theme park experiences. I've been in love with this place since I was 10 years old, and I will love it for another 25 more years. But apart from that, that is really all I've got. Thank you guys for watching another Vincent Vision. Please, if you enjoyed this video and you want more Universal videos like this, give me a like, subscribe. You're gonna find them on this channel here. Thank you to all of my lovely, wonderful Patreon supporters. You guys are what make awesome videos like this happen. And if you're looking to support me a little extra further, like these wonderful people, please consider signing up for my Patreon. It's $5 a month. You'll show up here. Big things coming in the future. But apart from that, it's time for me to get on out of here. It's time for me to start coming up with a list of things that are changing from this point on for the next 25-year video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.